Call to order the December 4th, 2024 meeting of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded as a public record. A recording of the meeting will be available at www.ncwildlife.org. As a courtesy to others, please turn off all cell phones during the meeting. At this time, I recognize Commissioner Tom Berry to lead us to pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Joe Bud to provide our invocation.
Got it, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today to seek your guidance and wisdom as we gather to discuss the important matters before us. May your spirit fill this room and inspire us to make decisions that honor you and benefit all the natural resources and wildlife that you have blessed our country and great state of North Carolina with. We give thanks for the many years of dedicated service of our outgoing Executive Director, Cam Ingram, and his wife, Renee. We pray that you will bless them as they enter this new chapter of their lives. May they experience your peace, healing, joy, and abundant blessings. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I recognize Margaret Mingler to do a roll call, members present.
Good morning. I'm going to do a roll call for commissioners present for our December 5th, 2024 meeting. Chairman Monty Crump.
Here.
Vice Chairman Mark Craig.
Here.
David Hoyle.
Here.
John Coley.
Here.
Wes Seegers.
Here.
Tommy Fumble.
Here.
Tom Berry.
Here.
Brad Standback.
Here.
Jim Ruffin.
Here.
Ray Clifton. Kelly Davis. Here. Steve Wyndham. Landon Zimmer. John Stone.
Here.
Hayden Rogers. John Alexander.
Here.
Tom Hayslip.
Here.
J.C. Cole.
Here.
Mike Alford.
Here.
Joe Budd.
Here.
Reed Smith.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have.
All good. North Carolina General Statute 138A-15 mandates that the commission chair shall remind all commissioners of their duty to avoid conflicts, interest, appearances of conflicts under this chapter, and that the chair also requires that where there is any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the commission at this time. It is the duty of each commissioner who is aware of such personal conflict or of interest or of an appearance of a conflict to notify chairman of the same. This time I'll ask, are there any recusals for any items of business coming before the commission today? Hearing none, we'll move forward. You had previously received in your packet minutes of the October 3rd, 2024 meeting you would have on Zoom as a result of Hurricane Helene not being able to meet in person. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes that's provided to you in the packet? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion. Second. All and out. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the minutes of the October 3rd, 2024 meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. At this time, I'll recognize Jason Cowell, our Chief Financial Officer, to provide a financial status report for the Wildlife Commission's General Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, and Dallas. Jason, floor is yours.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. We'll begin with a brief overview of the General Fund and Capital Improvement Fund revenues and expenditures to date. Just to draw your attention, this is data as of September 30, 2024. So this is end of the first fiscal quarter of 25. In our general fund category, total revenues year to date were $48,370,121.37. Total expenditures in the same $46,288,748.14, leaving us as of September 30 with an overall fund balance of $30,824,243.59. Excuse me. In our capital improvement fund, total revenues as of September 30 were $5,493,039.41. Total expenditures in the same were $2,070,183.95, leaving us with an overall fund balance of $8,112,407.98. Any questions about either of those two categories before we move on to the endowment fund? Our endowment fund balance as of September 30, 2024, $202,593,777. This is the first time we've seen that balance reach, let alone exceed 200 million. So I think that should serve to you all as a confirmation that the investment decisions you've made with regards to those lifetime license proceeds have served their intended purpose. We're on the right track. And I think that's something you all should take pride in. We're continuing to see that allocation at around 85-15, give or take, 85% equities, 15% short term. I know that $202 million figure gets a lot of attention, so it's important to remember that over half of that is principal that we can never touch. About 13 million is non-expendable income earned, so we're talking about a little less than 73 million available to expend. Of what we've already earmarked for our known obligations over the next couple of years, that's going to leave us with about 40 million remaining in expendable income, just over 39 million. We heard a lot of talk yesterday about resources going to be needed to bring Armstrong back online, to renovate Setzer, to potentially acquire new properties or even a new hatchery. So the continued success of the endowment fund is one tool that we've got in our toolkit to hopefully facilitate some of that future activity. Any questions?
Any questions?
Hearing none, I'll move on.
Well, you sound apologetic about only having $73 million available before the meeting, but I absolutely think that's a good position to be in. And again, as you noted, the stewardship that this board has given over that endowment has really paid dividends over the last several years. You know, we need to commend them, you know, today. So thank you, Jake. Thank you. Cam, at this time we'll move forward, call on Executive Director Cam Ingram to present the 2025 Wildlife Resources Committee. 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Keep this one really brief. We went over this yesterday in the Committee of the Whole, but I present to you Exhibit C, which is the upcoming meetings draft schedule that staff recommends for adoption today. Again, as a reminder, these meetings will be held on Thursdays throughout 2025. And our statutory requirement is that we have 2 meetings, and we're going to have 6 proposed to schedule that will follow with the rules schedule as well. So, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends approval of Exhibit C.
Are there any questions, comments? We went over this yesterday in the Committee of the Whole. Here none, I'll accept the motion in a second to adopt the 2025 meeting schedule for the Wildlife Commission. Motion, Bud, second, Alexander. Any further comments or questions? Can't stay up there, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Schedule is adopted. We're going to have a little change in the agenda. We've got a presentation to Cam that his family's going to make. And one of them has exams. In fact, both of them have exams today in college to get back to. So Renee, Brooke, and Brand, if you come up, please. But the governor of North Carolina has bestowed upon Cam Ingram the Order of the Lonely Pine, and his order family will do presentation.
Proposing special confidence in the integrity, learning, and zeal of Cameron Ingram, Governor Roy Cooper does confer the Order of the Longleaf Pine with the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary. Privileged to enjoy fully all rights granted to members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose the following North Carolina toast in select company anywhere in the free world. Here's to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home, the old North State.
Congratulations. It's obviously well deserved. We'll have a luncheon afterwards for additional comments and presentations, but we need to take a brief break. And if the family will come out, we'll have a picture made. We're now in session, and we'll move forward to the committee reports. And this time I recognize Judge Jesse Cole, Chair of the Voting Safety Committee. Your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Voting Safety Committee met yesterday morning. That's the Haywood. I was notably coordinator walked the committee through a permanent rulemaking adoption for Brunswick, Carteret, Alexander, Mecklenburg and Gaston counties. She then with a rulemaking notice pets requests for Raven, Caswell, and Person counties. These will all be presented later this morning for a vote. There being no further business. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? The voting safety committee chair. Hearing none, we'll move forward to small game committee, small game and wild turkey committee chairman, Jim Rutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Small Game and Wild Turkey Committee met briefly yesterday, and had an excellent presentation and discussion concerning the Caswell Small Game Focal Area. Wildlife Assistant Chief Chris Cray presented on the current and long-term small game survey and monitoring efforts that are occurring in the focal area. Chris also shared examples of the habitat work conducted and the quail and turkey response to the increased usable habitat on the landscape. Also, a high-level update was provided to the committee on a work group that has been formed to work on a plan for quail restoration across the state of North Carolina. We will bring the results of this group's work back through the committee and to the full commission for consideration in the future. With no further business, the committee was adjourned.
Any comments or questions? Chairman Rutten, or start the small game report. Hearing none, we'll move forward, and at this time I recognize Fisheries Committee Chair John Stone for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The meeting called to order at 9:45 a.m. Christian Waters with staff recommendations for enhanced delayed harvest trout waters. The program will enhance the select number of delayed harvest streams with an increased number of larger trout exceeding 18 inches in length. Initial stockings will occur once renovations are completed on all trout hatcheries. Program name, site locations, further details should be incorporated in the review of the trout plan. Corey Oakley then discussed trout production impacts of Hurricane Helene, which included severe damage to the infrastructure of Armstrong State Fish Hatchery, strain damage, and Setzer Fish Hatchery. Repairs at Armstrong are expected to be completed by January 2026, and the renovation of Setzer has been delayed temporarily until the Armstrong facility can be restored. Fishery staff stocked available delayed harvest locations in November. We'll stock delayed harvest locations again in December, as well as winter small impoundments, and plan to stock delayed harvest and hatchery supported orders as scheduled in the spring. Corey also gave an overview of the Glady Fort Fish Hatchery, private facility in Transylvania County, being considered for acquisition. With no additional topics, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any comments or questions regarding the Fisheries Committee report? Hearing none, we'll move forward to land acquisition. Committee Chairman Tom Beard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Comment that this is a monumental meeting for us. We probably got more land on our plates now than we've had in a long, long time. And we want to put Jason on notice that you've explained to us just how much money we got now. We're gonna be after so long. Anyway, committee reviewed and approved 10 phase one lot acquisition proposals totaling just over 6,400 acres. It was noted that the Hickory Mountain project would establish a new game land in McDowell County. The committee also reviewed and approved 7 phase 2 land acquisition proposals totaling 3,577 acres. Note the committee in approving the Big Swamp tract in Robinson County of 2,500 acres will establish a new game land in an underserved region of the state. And establishing new game land has been one of the goals of our committee, and it's been a struggle, but my hat goes off to staff. It's a big deal. Committee reviewed 2 other property matters, including the right-of-way request on the Sandhills game land and a right-of-way request on the Neuse River game land. Committee tabled the Sandhills game land right-of-way request and asked that staff to obtain more information about the request prior to any decision from the committee and board. The committee denied the Neuse River game land right-of-way request. The committee Adjourned at 11:45. Mr. Chairman, that's our report.
Any questions for Chairman Berry regarding land acquisition property report? Hearing none, we'll move forward, and this time I recognize Chairman Berry Moore to begin.
Committee met yesterday afternoon. Chief Brad Howard briefed the committee on potential statutory language that would accommodate a raffle and auction for elk hunting permit possibly in the 2026 season. The committee decided to include in the statute the condition that anyone entering the raffle would be required to have proof of a North Carolina hunting license. Next, staff discussed ideas and upcoming decisions that would be required relative to new rules designed to manage our areas where CWD is known to exist, including potentially examining new carcass disposal rules. The goal of all the rules will be to maintain hunter participation and satisfaction while attempting to implement herd management strategies designed to minimize or delay the spread of the disease on the landscape. Having no further business, the meeting was adjourned.
Are there any comments or questions? Reference. Big game committee report. Hearing none, we'll move forward. I'll give the next two committee report. We'll have action out of the committee of the whole report. So right now, I'll go to the executive committee, at Tuesday, 2:30 p.m. in the journal, closed session after open meeting. We reviewed discussed candidates, elected director position under North Carolina General Statute 143, 318A, 186, as a statute to go to closed session. After returning to open session, meeting was adjourned. As you all know, Cam is retiring effective December 31st. Commission had an open process to select consider candidates for our next executive director. It was open to nationwide, internal, and external candidates. We did receive multiple applications for the job. We had, before we advertised the job, the committee went over the duties and responsibilities, minimum qualifications that we would consider moving forward with any candidate. Once the committee, the executive committee decided on those qualifications, we move forward with the advertising. We received and took applications both internally and externally. From those applications and based on the guidelines that we had adopted, the qualifications to move forward for consideration, every candidate, we met Tuesday afternoon, went over it and reviewed all that. We had identified a preferred candidate that we did interview extensively, went over goals and objectives. Commission saw our challenges going forward, everything from succession planning to funding model. We did a thorough review of commission needs today and going forward, and discussed with this candidate the best way that he could fit in, she could fit in to achieve those goals on behalf of the commission. So we did that thoroughly Tuesday. Obviously, we cannot vote in closed session, but the executive committee did come to consensus to bring a candidate forward. Committee to hold on Wednesday afternoon, and I'll jump forward to that right now since we're already on that topic. And here again, the report findings of the executive committee in closed session as allowed under law of personnel was presented to the entire commission. So we had again another thorough discussion, what the parameters were, the boundaries, the number of candidates we had, qualification of our preferred candidate related to the rest of the field. We did have several well-qualified candidates for the job. So then the committee to hold reached a unanimous decision there too, but we couldn't vote. So I hate to jump the gun on the committee of the whole report, but since I've gone that far in explaining it, we all did, like I noted, we did come to terms with the candidate general consensus. And at this time, I'm prepared to open the floor for a nomination second appointment of the next executive director, Wildlife Commission, effective January 1st, 2025. Floor is open for nomination.
So moved.
So moved.
I got John Alexander Hannah first for a motion and a second by John Coley but you got, I didn't need to name the candidate. You need to name the motion.
Kyle Briggs.
Second. So we got a motion on the floor to appoint Kyle Briggs, Executive Director of North Carolina Wildlife Commission, effective January 1st, 2025. Is there any further discussion, comments on that? Kyle? It was a pleasure, the whole time, numerous comments you experienced, your institutional knowledge, your commitment, and lifelong associated with this agency. Your just thorough and complete knowledge of the agency, top to bottom, your professionalism and your team player approach, definitely won today. In addition to your work ethic. That was a common thing from the entire commission. So when I walked in the office, I said, I got some good news and bad news for you. I said, we've already made a selection, you're good, and he was very humble by it. And before I ask him to have any comments, I'll call now. Are there any more comments? Any executive committee member or commission now? Yes, sir.
Chair, I think one thing that you pointed out yesterday, that after you reviewed all of the applicants, you narrowed it down to 4 people for the executive committee to consider, and I think that's very important that
Yes.
That be noted.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you making that distinction. Any more comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to name Kyle Briggs, ex-executive director of the Quality Commission, effective January 1st. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Aye. Congratulations. Yeah, any comments?
I just appreciate the confidence of the board. I appreciate Cam's leadership over the last 4 years and look forward to leading the tremendous staff that we have into the future. Thank y'all.
Okay, obviously, there's no questions about the executive report. Let me see if I can get that. Let's get it. Committee of whole met yesterday afternoon. Committee of whole met to begin. Received an excellent presentation on the agency's response to Hurricane Helene, including significant emergency response performed by our law enforcement officers and special swiftwater rescue team, and the impacts to fish and wildlife in Western North Carolina and the agency's infrastructure. And I can't stress how grateful the commission, each wildlife commission there is for the sacrifice above and beyond the call of duty staff did, even when they suffered losses with their homes and property, and their commitment to serving the people of the state in extraordinarily trying times during Hurricane Helene. In its aftermath in Western North Carolina, we still have a lot of work to do, have a lot of infrastructure improvements to make, that we've got to make. But the expensive, we'll take our time to figure them out, move forward with the directions we have for our staff. I'm confident we'll come out bigger and better. The back we do mainly to our staff, our executive director and next item. Committee of whole, Carrie Rubin reviewed rulemaking adoptions and notices of text, and Director Ingram reviewed the commission meeting schedule for 2025. Next item of business, Commissioners Seegers and Davis briefly discussed the history of cadence on the Albemarle Peninsula and their staff and our staff's participation in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Red Wolf Recovery Team. They ended the discussions recommending a new resolution be adopted to replace the commission's previous resolution. And I will ask Kyle to read the proposed resolution prior to taking the vote on the adoption. But even before you do that, I want to call on Commissioner Seegers and Davis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we met yesterday and basically gave a brief history of an extensive amount of time that's been spent studying this in commission, working with Fish and Wildlife Service to try to reestablish a red wolf population in the eastern North Carolina, the 5 county areas, all that AC. That's been very up and down. And where what we wanted to do yesterday was give everybody a brief history of where we are, where we've been, and ask if there's any questions, thoughts, or comments about that, because what we want to do going forward is resolution that Kyle's going to read here in just a minute, really requires a unanimous vote by everybody to support this going forward. We basically, and that's actually in the resolution, where we are rescinding all our previous resolutions and concentrating everything on this one particular one. So it's important. If anybody has any questions or comments, again, before he reads that, we'd like to address those now. So when we vote, we've got a clean and clear vote. Anybody have any questions at all for Kelly or myself? Kelly, was anything you'd like to add to that? Okay, well, hearing no challenges or comments, then I'm going to ask Kyle to read the resolution, and then we'll take a vote.
Thank you, Commissioner. Resolution of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission on red wolves. Whereas in 2015, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission adopted 2 resolutions regarding red wolves on the Albemarle Peninsula of North Carolina. And whereas in 2016, a federal court issued a temporary injunction, and in 2018 issued a permanent injunction against the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on the take of red wolves. And whereas in 2019, the National Academy of Sciences published their findings on the status of the red wolf that suggests red wolves are a distinct species. And whereas in 2019, the National Academy of Sciences was also contracted by the service to evaluate the taxonomy of wild canids in southern Louisiana. And whereas in 2020, the service was sued to resume releases of red wolves on the AP. And whereas in 2021, a federal court ordered the service to draft and implement a plan to release red wolves from the captive population back in the wild on the AP. And whereas the service's reintroduction plan includes the use of sterilized coyotes as placeholders to prevent hybridization. And whereas coyotes are state trust species under the full authority of the commission. And whereas the commission is the state agency tasked to conserve North Carolina's wildlife resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved, based on the information provided by the National Academy of Sciences, the renewed efforts of the service to reinvigorate the red wolf program on the AP, and the discovery of canids in southern Louisiana with substantial red wolf DNA, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission does hereby direct staff to work with the service to develop and implement a memorandum of understanding for collaborative management of canids on the AP in an attempt to meet the recovery goals for red wolves and for the benefits of North Carolina citizens. And be it further resolved, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission issues this resolution to replace all previous resolutions on red wolves and the red wolf program. This resolution was introduced by Commissioner Wes Seegers and Commissioner Kelly Davis today.
Rich, you have a motion?
I'd like a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Brad, stand by. Any further comments or questions? I'll call for a vote on the adoption of this resolution. Hearing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the resolution as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Again, I said it profusely yesterday, the gratitude that we owe Commissioner Seegers, Commissioner Davis, 2 years of getting to this point to solve, to settle some ill will and opportunities to do better canine management on the Albemarle Peninsula, which was one of the goals and objectives of this. And our staff working literally over 2 years worth of work time and effort with great review, and we will not be where we're at with this resolution. That's all of y'all, staff and commission, hard work dedicated.
Well, thank you for those comments. But again, the staff has provided a huge amount of, collaboration between Kelly and I, and it is truly a joint effort. So we appreciate the cooperation of everybody. On my tenure on here, there's been things that have been a whole lot more fun than this, I would say that. Thanks for that.
Okay, this time, the other item that was discussed in closed session was a legal matter. We looked at thoroughly reviewed with our in-house counsel and a member of the North Carolina Attorney General's office who represents this agency on the pending legal matter. Result of those discussions, Will entertain a motion. This is authorization for legal action on behalf of the Wildlife Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the commission delegate authority to the executive director to investigate alleged encroachments upon, usurpation of, or other actions violation of the public trust rights of the people of the state, and to initiate civil actions to remove or restrain any unlawful or unauthorized encroachments, usurpation of, or any other violation of the public trust rights of the people of the state, or legal rights of access to such people trust areas pursuant to NCGF 113-131.
Thank you. Have a motion. Is there a second? Got a second. Where the second came from over here? Judge Cole. Okay. You have a motion and a second in front of you. I won't read all that again. But it's the conferred power to the executive director moving forward legal matters related to public trust doctrine issues. Leading further discussion. Here none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carries. It is adopted. Thank you very much. I think that gets us to the point now we can move forward and talk about invasive catfish. And so this time I'll recognize Christian Waters to introduce our speaker and have a program on invasive catfish management in the coastal plain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure today to introduce T.D. Van Middlesworth. He is the District 2 fisheries biologist in Greenville. He has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Western Illinois University. Before he came to work for us in 2020, he worked for the Illinois Natural History Survey, and he also was a short-time employee with the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries. So with that, I'll invite TD up to talk about catfish.
Good morning, and thanks for letting me come and speak to y'all today. Really appreciate it. So I've been an avid outdoorsman my whole life. While I love everything the outdoors has to offer, fishing has always been one of my favorite outdoor activities, more specifically catfishing. I still do it with my family on the Tar River to this day, but I grew up catfishing and also largemouth bass fishing. The reason I became a fisheries biologist many years ago was because I wanted a job where I could try to help make fishing better. So that's always driven me, and that's gotten me where I am today. I'm very proud of where I'm at, and it's been a great career so far. So the purpose of my presentation today is to provide an overview of the NCWRC invasive catfish and management of them in the North Carolina coastal plain. So there are approximately 18 catfish species in North Carolina. That includes catfish, bullhead, and mad tom species. Black bullhead and channel catfish are native to Mississippi River basins, but non-native to Atlantic River basins. They were introduced during the early 1900s. Now they're naturalized. But for the remainder of my presentation, I'm going to focus on flathead and blue catfish, which are native to Mississippi River basins, but invasive to Atlantic River basins. They were introduced during the mid to late 1900s, and now their populations are thriving and expanding. So the flathead catfish is an apex predator. They can grow up to 78 pounds in North Carolina. They have a very wide mouth, so they can feed predominantly on live prey such as fish. The blue catfish is the largest species of freshwater catfish in North America, and it can actually grow up to 127 pounds in North Carolina. They feed on a variety of prey. It's important to note that blue catfish affect many trophic levels from invertebrates to fish. Also, another important thing to know about blue catfish is that they're tolerant of elevated salinity, which allows them to be more adaptable along the coastal plain of North Carolina. Flathead and blue catfish are invasive in Atlantic River basins because they negatively affect native species. They do this directly through predation and indirectly through competition for resources. Flathead and blue catfish negatively affect a variety of native species in North Carolina, which has caused conservation concerns. Examples of native anadromous fishes that are negatively affected include alewife, blueback herring, American shad, and striped bass. Other native fishes that are negatively affected include the red breast sunfish. That's my daughter in the middle holding the red breast from the tar. Also the white catfish and the federally endangered Carolina mad tom. Flathead and blue catfish are a complicated management issue in North Carolina. On one hand, they're negatively affecting native species, but on the other hand, they're providing excellent opportunities for our constituents. Catfish are one of the most targeted species in North Carolina, making up about 55% of the total freshwater angling effort, according to a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service national survey. Since their establishment, catfishing has become even more popular throughout North Carolina. We have lots of anglers throughout the state that greatly value flathead and blue catfish. The biggest angler groups include general anglers that want catfish to eat, trophy anglers that want big catfish for sport, and tournament anglers that want lots of big catfish to win competitions. There's also conservation anglers who want to catch and conserve native catfish. Besides angling, though, a variety of other gears can be used to target flathead and blue catfish. Jug hook, just some examples, jug hook, trot line, limb line, grappling. I've actually done grappling. I'm not going to do it again, but I've done it enough that it's pretty challenging. And then archery. There's also people can also do hand crank electrofishing, but only in specific southeastern North Carolina areas. And this is allowed with a special device license. Flathead and blue catfish fishing in Atlantic River basins is so strong right now that 2 North Carolina state records were broken in recent years. In July 2020, a 78-pound flathead catfish was caught in the Neuse River. And then in July 2021, 127-pound blue catfish was caught in the Roanoke River. So as I mentioned, catfishing has become even more popular, and so has catfish tournaments throughout North Carolina since the establishment of flathead and blue catfish in Atlantic River basins. So just a few examples of some very popular tournaments in North Carolina are the Easy 3 Catfish, Eastern NC Catfish, NC Cats, Yadkin Master Catters, and the King of Tillery. The second annual King of Tillery was held in 2022. It's the largest catfish tournament in North Carolina. 151 boats registered with a payout of $23,000. And I think the next one is coming up pretty soon. Flathead and blue catfish also provide commercial opportunities in North Carolina due to their high biomass, marketable size, and easy access to markets. Currently, there's little commercial effort for flathead catfish in Atlantic River basins. However, there is a significant commercial fishery for blue catfish in the coastal plain, with most of the effort in the Albemarle Sound and its tributaries. So how do we manage catfish in North Carolina? Well, the 2019 NCWRC Catfish Management Plan designated native catfish species as game fish and non-native and invasive catfish species as non-game fish. Since flathead and blue catfish are invasive non-game fish in Atlantic River basins, they have no size or bag limits, and a variety of methods can be used to fish for them. However, there are regulations for blue catfish in designated North Carolina reservoirs. It's important to note that North Carolina has 2 catfish management zones. So if you look at the map on this slide, this is straight from the Catfish Management Plan. The dark gray on the left, the interior management zone includes Mississippi River drainages where species such as flathead and blue catfish are native. But the rest of the state, the Atlantic management zone, where all waters flow towards the Atlantic Ocean, blue cat and flathead catfish are invasive. The goal of both zones is the protection and enhancement of native catfish species. Due to the complex management issue that's blue cat and flathead catfish in the light gray, the Atlantic management zone, it's further broken down into 3 management units. So the light gray Atlantic management zone is also the invasive catfish harvest unit. So we have protections in place for native catfish, but no harvest restrictions for invasive catfish such as blue cat and flathead catfish. But as I mentioned, the red that you see on the map Those are the red is the blue catfish management units. Those are areas where we manage blue cat fish in reservoirs for the benefit of constituents. And the little bit of yellow that you see on the map is the native catfish conservation units. These are areas where we still have only native catfish populations. And so our goal is to maintain that. So for the remainder of the presentation, I'll focus on some of the catfish work that the NCWRC is doing in the coastal plain. So we conduct catfish surveys and research, which allows us to document catfish populations and changes that occur over time. More specifically, this work allows us to look at things such as species impacts, age and growth, mortality, distribution, movement, habitat, diet, gear selection. It can also let us look at things, angler awareness, effort, catch, and harvest. So there are anglers who fish in the North Carolina coastal plain that would love to see trophy regulations for flathead and blue catfish. Just an example, these figures here are it's data from our 2020 Tar River Catfish Survey that suggested that flathead catfish have robust populations with low mortality, which suggests that trophy regulations would not make flathead catfish any better than they are now with no limits on harvest. The survey also suggested that blue catfish population expansion is still occurring. And then lastly, the figure on the bottom right, it's just our data suggesting that on the Tar River, in this example, as flathead abundance has increased over time, our native white catfish abundance has declined over time. And these findings are similar to what we're seeing throughout the coastal plain today. So moving forward, we will continue catfish surveys that typically occur every 3 to 5 years per water body. For example, I'm planning a 2025 Neuse River catfish survey, and in 2026, a Tar River catfish survey. We'll continue to coordinate with federal and state agencies regarding the management and conservation of catfish. A couple of examples are the Carolina Mad Tom being listed as federally endangered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and NCDMF blue catfish related conservation concerns. Also, we will continue to engage constituents to learn more about their wants and needs. We can do this through things such as angler clubs, fish for fun events, and creel surveys, such as the recent 2023 Neuse River Creel Survey that we did, and analysis is underway. And then we have a planned 2026 Tar River Creel Survey. So flathead and blue catfish in North Carolina coastal plain are invasive and present conservation concerns. Populations in the coastal plain are expanding with fast growth, consistent recruitment, and low mortality. Therefore, we encourage harvest and have not implemented protective regulations, but will continue catfish surveys and research and building relationships with our constituents. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Any comments or questions? Okay, well, John Alexander.
Thank you very much. Didn't mention it, but do we do any regulations for catfish farm?
Catfish farms.
No, generally speaking, the catfish farms are under the authority of the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. But if those fish were to be taken from the farm, for example, and be put into public water, that's where our authority would become, we would have authority, and we currently have restrictions over stocking fish in the public waters without our permit.
Thank you.
What's the approximate poundage or fish that, say, these blues and flatheads eat a day?
Oh, that's a really great question. Well, I will say, this is just an example. I don't have an exact number, but I will say, when we're out sampling this in the springtime, for example, I'm on the Neuse River sampling anadromous fish. We'll see adult American shad, in the mouths, sometimes hanging out. They're swallowing 20-inch American shad whole, the flatheads. This is like an average size flathead too.
One more question on it. So they're big fish.
Yes.
The cat.
Yes.
anything to try to eradicate them, or is it a popular sport fish? Where are we?
Well, great question. So right now, we're just encouraging harvest and, that's the best thing we can do right now. I do know there's been electrofishing efforts done in the states south of us that have tried to eradicate flathead catfish through electrofishing removal. Electrofishing works really well if you have the right settings for catfish, but it has been tried and it wasn't successful. So it's definitely something we can investigate in the future.
Other questions? These fish ever sold commercially for food?
Yeah, a little bit, but like I said, most of that's in the blue catfish fishery. I think with their salinity tolerance, we see more of that with they out in the Albemarle Sound and its tributaries. We see a lot of effort out there, and DMF actually has commercial harvest information on that.
What part of the Tar River generally do you do your surveys?
So yeah, great question. We, when we do these surveys, and for example, the example that I showed you back in 2020, we usually do these in the summertime. The water's typically low unless we get a lot of rain. So we go up as high up as we can. Some of these fish, we've seen 40-pound fish, plus pound fish in, less than 5 foot of water. It's pretty amazing. And, but anyway, we try to go all the way up to, near the Tar River Reservoir, and we go all the way down, till we hit a salt wedge, till we can't electrofish, successfully anymore, past Little Washington. So we do the whole river.
Like the Rocky Mount Reservoir, is that a kind of a stopping point when you?
Yeah. Rocky Mount, that we typically, it's too shallow. We don't quite get that far, but I would say, usually we're able to start in Tarboro. So Tarboro to Little Washington is typically where we're able to go. But if we can get up a little higher than Tarboro, we will. But just about boat access at that point. Sometimes it's so low. That's one of the things I like about the Tar. When you go to launch a boat, sometimes you can't. You have to, if I was fishing, I might just have to get out and wade. So, yeah.
Thank
you. Mm-hmm.
Is that controlled by hydropower? What are you talking about when the water flows, or is that natural?
Yeah.
It's Tar River Reservoir's water supply.
Yeah.
And the way it works is they release water out of the Tar River Reservoir. The Rocky Mount intake is actually downstream of the reservoir. So they release in order to be able to do intake. So it's more or less natural, but it's a water supply system.
Do you know, how much that mimics natural flow, or do they have a minimum release that you're aware of?
Yes, they do have a minimum release. Off the top of my head,
I'm assuming they're trying to mimic running the river as much as they can.
They can. They are until a situation of a drought. Drought is typically where it really starts to get questioned.
Then what happens, like in most of these river basins where you have the influence of hydropower, when that water goes down low, you got deep holes left, and the fish have nowhere to go. And that's one reason these flatheads, blues get so big they have an absolute buffet when the water's low, because their prey has nowhere to go. That's something constantly.
Where? One last question: have they been found above the Rocky Mount Reservoir?
That's a great question. Have you heard anything? I haven't.
I do believe that we have found an individual or two, but they're not. We haven't seen them in great numbers, but I do believe we have a record of one above the dam.
I'm from Rocky Mount.
Yeah, and I don't. I have fished the reservoir. I don't sample it. That's another group of biologists, but I do know that they have been found in some reservoirs in North Carolina, but specifically I can't remember which ones.
Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Somebody grab the lights. We will move forward with the agenda. We'll move on now to land acquisitions and property matters. We have several phase 2 land acquisitions is reported out the land and property committee from yesterday. What we'll do for the matter of time and moving along is I'll ask Ben to provide them all one time, and I'll call for a motion in a second of the property exhibits to include in the motion. Ben, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So today for consideration, we have 7 Phase 2 land acquisition proposals as well as 2 other property matters. We'll start off with our first, which is Exhibit D1. This is our Port Palace tract in Bladen County. It is a 238-acre addition to Whitehall Plantation game land. Our second exhibit is Exhibit D2. It is the Big Swamp tract. This is a new game land in Robeson County at 2,475 acres. Exhibit D3 is a donation we're receiving from a private landowner in Pender County. This will be in addition to Holly Shelter game land. Exhibit D4 is the Heitman tract. This is a 2.1 acre addition in Davidson County. It will be in addition to Yadkin River game land, and this acquisition is critical to our access of this tract. Exhibit D5 is the Randy Mabry tract, still in Davidson County. Another addition to the Yadkin River game land. This will be a purchase at $109,000 using wildlife restoration funds. Exhibit D6 is the Ripshin Ridge tract. This is a 341 acre addition in Caldwell County. It will be in addition to Buffalo Cove game land. And Exhibit D7 is our White Oak Arteman tract. This is a donation from Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. This will be in addition to U.S. Forest Service owned Pisgah game land in Haywood County. And that concludes our Phase 2 exhibits that were considered yesterday in our Land Acquisition and Property Committee. Staff in the Land Acquisition and Property Committee would like to recommend approval of exhibits D1 through D7.
I'd like to motion.
Second.
D1 through D7. Are there any more comments or questions about that? Got a motion and second. Various. Stand that. All good there? More comments or questions? All those in favor of approve a motion to adopt D1 through D7 exhibits, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Those 7 exhibits. Phase 2s are approved. Other property matters.
Other property matters that were considered yesterday are exhibits E1 and E2. These were both right-of-way easement requests. The first that we'll take a look at is exhibit E1. This was a ingress, egress, and utilities easement request at Sandhills Game Land. Exhibit E2 is another ingress, egress, and utilities easement request at Neuse River Game Land in Craven County. Staff and the Land Acquisition and Property Committee would like to recommend tabling exhibit E1 and denying approval of exhibit E2.
This time I would set the motion a second. Table exhibit E1, deny exhibit 2.
Motion as presented.
Motion, is there a second? Second. Second, Mr. Rupp. Any further discussion? Everybody understand what it is? Here, no further comments or questions. All those in favor of the motion to table E1 and deny E2, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to comment the rate every day for the land committee and the commission for approving these projects. A lot of work has gone into it. Hours and hours of staff. It seems like we just rip right through this stuff. And then people say, well, God, I know that there's more country, more detail here. But we did vet it, and it's a great. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This time I'll call on Terry Rubin, present from rulemaking adoption periodic review and part. Yeah, I got Betsy next. You're right. It's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Yesterday in the Boating Safety Committee meeting, we discussed 6 10F rule proposals for adoption and also for notice of text, 4 for final adoption and 2 to present notice of text. And you will find the complete rule text and supporting documentation for all of these in your agenda packets. First of all, for final adoption, Exhibit F 15A NCAC 10F.0305, Brunswick County, technical corrections to correct a coordinate at the Odell Williamson Bridge in the town of Ocean Isle Beach and to remove from the NC Administrative Code the Dutchman Creek boating access area as it is already listed in the NCAC. Next, we have Exhibit G, 15A NCAC 10F.0330 Carteret County. This is to incorporate into the North Carolina Administrative Code 10 boating access areas in Carteret County that are maintained by the Wildlife Resources Commission. Then we have Exhibit H, 15A NCAC 10F.0332 Alexander County, extend the no-wake zone on Lake Hickory and Taylorsville east of the Rink Dam and around the Sandbar Marina and Grill Docks, create a restricted area where vessel entry is prohibited at the Wittenberg access area in Bethlehem, incorporate 2 boating access areas into the code, and technical revisions will correct the names of some of the facilities and assign responsibility for placement and maintenance to Alexander County, the Wildlife Resources Commission, or Duke Energy LLC. And then finally, under final adoption, we have 15A NCAC 10F.0333 Lake Wiley in Mecklenburg and Gaston counties. This is to adopt a no-wake zone at Joiners Marina and to make technical correction to coordinates at the Buster Boyd Bridge, and finally remove responsibility by the Lake Wiley Marine Commission at some areas and facilities unless it is specifically stated in Rule Exhibit I.
Any comments or questions for Betsy on any of these rulemaking proposal options? If not, I'll ask for a motion and a second approval of adoption. Exhibits F2, G2, H2, I2 is presented. So move Mr. Chair motion. Commissioner Alexander, who made second. Second. Commissioner Davis. Any comments?
Jason.
Chris Cole. All those in favor of adoption of F2, G2, H2, I2, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carries over adopted. Okay, Betsy.
Thank you. As discussed in the Boating Safety Committee meeting yesterday, staff and the Boating Safety Committee recommend approval to publish notice of text with open comment period and public hearing for 2 proposed rule amendments. 1, 15A NCAC 10F.0347 Craven County found in Exhibit J. This is a request to publish notice of text with open comment period and public hearing for a no-wake zone shore to shore in Bryce's Creek from north of the Bryce's Creek Bridge around Merchants Grocery, docking facilities, fuel dock, and public boat access area to a line southeast of the peninsula on the eastern side of the creek. And finally, Exhibit K, 15A NCAC 10F.0363 Ico Lake in Caswell and Person counties. And this is a request to publish notice of text with open comment period and public hearing for a technical correction to assign responsibility for placement and maintenance of markers to Caswell and Person counties. Exhibit K.
Any comments or questions about these proposed rulemaking notice of text approvals? Hearing none at this time, I entertain a motion in a second for the adoption approval of exhibits J and K. To adopt. Question from Judge Cole, is there a second? Second. Second. Commissioner Seegers. Any further comments or questions today? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt exhibits J and K, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you.
Carrie, I didn't mean to jump the gun. Thank you for your time back.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first rulemaking item that I have for you today is the readoption of rules 10G0501, 10J0104, and 10J0105. These are exhibits L1 and L2 of the agenda package. These rules were part of the last periodic review and were determined to be necessary with substantive public interest. Therefore, they're required to be readopted. As discussed yesterday in the committee of the whole meeting, amendments include updates to rule language and formatting. Next, we have permanent amendments to Rule 10D0252, Need More Game Land. These are exhibits M1 and M2 in the agenda package. As discussed yesterday, the amendments to this rule align deer seasons on Need More Game Land to the antlerless deer season structure on the neighboring Nantahala Game Land. Staff recommend adoption of the amendments to these rules.
Are there any questions? Here none, I'll entertain a motion to second for adoption. Exhibits L2 and M2 as presented. So moved. Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Davis, second. Any further comments or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying yes, the adoption approval of L2, M2. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next we'll move on to notice of text. First, we have amendments to rules 10B 0203 white-tailed deer, 10C 0316 mountain trout, and 10D 0102 general regulations regarding use on game lands. This is Exhibit N in the agenda package. As discussed at yesterday's meeting, the amendments will standardize the age of youth to individuals under the age of 16, and additional amendments to the deer rule will add a youth deer day so that there will be 2 youth deer days instead of 1. Next, we have temporary amendment to Rule 10F0307. This is Exhibit O in the agenda package. As discussed yesterday, this proposal will codify vessel livery safety requirements and clarify standards for livery companies on Lake Norman. Staff recommends noticing temporary amendments and the permanent amendments, opening the public comment period and holding public hearings for these rules.
Comments or questions? Carried. Here none, I'll entertain a motion second for adoption of exhibits N and O is presented. Motion. David and Will Seegers. Motion in a second. Any further comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Comments by the chairman. At this point, we will plan to give the board of only time. As I noted, one of the daughters or both of them actually had to get back to college and finish do exams today. So we sped that up in the program, and the family is downstairs. We're going to have a retirement lunch with their family, all invited. Food is delivered around 11. I expect maybe 11:15, 11:30 will be set up for lunch. And we'll have additional presentations, at that time. Again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Are there any comments? Other than reserve luncheon? Good. Cam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and yeah, I appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege to serve in this role. Check it up. But I tell you, the one of the most proud thing I am about serving in this role is getting to work with staff, and it's been just unbelievable to work with staff and this board. Your involvement, I often mention that in these comments, and everything that you do to support the very thing that we do here. That's the mission of Wildlife Resources Commission. You'll hear me talk about that. There's a reason why I was up there on the wall is to remind ourselves when we walk in this room what we're here to do. And I think we do an outstanding job between the agency and the commission and providing the mission to the folks in North Carolina and conservation. We're always looking to improve, but I think we do an outstanding job of that, and that's with the reflection of what y'all do here in the state, still across the state by our staff. So thank y'all so much for giving me this opportunity. Again, it's been a privilege to serve, and going forward, I'm very confident in your selection for the executive director position with Kyle Briggs. He's demonstrated his knowledge, and as you noted earlier, Mr. Chairman, his institutional knowledge, but his work ethic is unparalleled to anything I've ever seen. I've had the privilege to work with him in my previous role as major field operations, and this role as executive director, he being the chief deputy director for my tenure here, and Kyle is just been unbelievable. He's there's many good things to come his leadership, and Mr. Chairman, I'll hold the rest of my comments for a later date. Maybe today, a little while if I can get through it. but thank all of y'all for everything.
Cam, without a doubt, with discussions with the commission over the last couple of days and evaluating future candidates, where we're at, we're definitely, you moved the ball down. Your ability to deal with, communicate, staff, members of the assembly, relationships that you've been able to establish, and add to with our partners across the state. It's been phenomenal successes. I think you allowed and empowered employees to do their jobs, and to show what they can accomplish, provide the resources that are needed, let them shine. I think that's your style and your personality clearly, and brought that out. I think it's a feeling of the commission that it did, and that's largely responsible for clearly where the commission was. But stay clearly, that's why. Okay. Still want comments, questions, want to add anything to that?
I'd like to say one thing. Yesterday at lunch, you kind of snickered when you told me that his children were going to come up, and you thought it would get him at that point in time. Well, he handled that completely. And I'd like to say personal thank you. As a Sanford boy, Lee County, we're proud of it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I will break protocol and let our main man back there have a comment.
Well, I may not be able to stay for lunch, but I did want to come and say a few words. Well, I want to thank Cam for a wonderful last few years of my career, and appreciate everybody letting me in the building today. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get it or not, but I really want to thank you for a wonderful last few years of my career. When the board hired you, I knew you, I knew of you, but we hadn't really worked real close together on a lot of projects or different things. So wasn't really sure how that was all going to work out. But Cam came up, and within the first day or two, he took all the deputy directors individually and asked us what our top issues or concerns or priorities were within those first few days. And we all sat with him individually, and I'm sure there were some commonalities amongst all of the deputy directors that were up here at that time. And in short order, he took the commonalities that we had, and he made a decision, he took action, and it really showed us that, man, this guy is going to be a good leader, a great manager, and he's going to be, he's going to make a great team out of us up here. So I appreciate the leadership that you showed. I liked working under your great management skills. And best of all, thanks for being a great friend through the years. And I know you're gonna enjoy and love retirement. And I hope I get to see you a little bit more now that you'll have some more time. So thank you, Cam. Yep.
Is there anything else? Yes, sir, Tom.
What a nice thing for you to do here.
Thank you. Hey, we stick around all of the under lunch. We'll have a couple more presentations. And here had to know about this, meeting is adjourned.